Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is, I guess, essentially a part 2, even though I didn't label the last episode part 1. This is the next installment of playing with these retro parts, the Fizz tachometer and the Motor Pro equalizer. So I've tested both items now. I didn't get any GoPro footage of the test for the tachometer, but here's some video I recorded with my phone, so it's, you know, quality's a bit shit, but here you go.
Yeah, I'd say it works.
And in the last episode you saw that these two items work. The radio ended up modifying and fixing, relocated these pins further down. So now the Celica fascia actually fits after relocating those knobs. So that should look pretty sweet, I think. Now I can run the speaker wiring directly from this into this, and I have to make a loom for that, which I'll get onto in a minute. As for this thing, I've gone and put a whole bunch of Toyota plugs on it. So these are your inputs here. These are the wires that'll be plugged directly into the speaker wiring from the radio, and this is your output. So this is just rear speakers at the moment, because I'm going to be running these speakers which you saw in the last video. I'm going to be replacing the speakers in them with something a bit more modern, but I will be running these parcel shelf speakers in Noob. So I've only got the rear set up at the moment. I'm not going to bother with the front. If I want to add front later, I can. I just have to chop this off and put a plug on it and do the same thing. So yeah, that's that done. That's the power and earth. I have to earth the chassis of the equalizer as well. They're pretty much ready to go in. Now it's just a matter of fitting all this, doing the wiring, fitting that Fizz tacho, which is very simple to wire up. I'll show you that later. But for now, we'll just make the loom to join these two. As you can see, that's a pretty basic loom, but it does the job. It only needs to drop down from where the radio mounts to just under the center console where this is going to mount. This is all pretty much ready to go. I could go plug the radio in right now and it would power up. I just need to run power for this, which I'm going to take from directly behind the fuse box in the dash, because it needs a pretty hefty power cable. Before I worry about running any power or anything though, I really should get this mounted exactly how I want it. This is where it has to sit pretty much. It could go back a little bit further if I need, but this is just sitting here at the moment with that bracket and a nut on the back propping it up. And it sits in a pretty good spot for the console. So that'll sit there. This needs to sit up like that. That's in a good spot there. And then I can make a surround that I mount to the back of this console. It should be mint. Looks good, I think. The thing is, I can't use that bracket I've made because I would have to pull my entire dash out to mount it to the tunnel here. So instead I'm thinking about going off of the center console bracket just here. I took some rough measurements, got a scrap bit of aluminium here. So I'm just going to chop up some 90mm strips and then do a hole on either end about 70mm apart from each other. And that should be good. Safety third. Alrighty, that's now mounted in, and it's pretty solid. Like I've just got those brackets hanging off of here, nut and bolt, and then there's one on the back near on the tunnel there. You can just see it, All the wiring fits back there. There's a big enough gap between it and that that cover over the heater vent there. Speaking of this little cover here, Noob's useless Toyota facts you may or may not know. You can remove these and run ducting that goes down the tunnel and under the seats, like so. That is the rear foot warmer for your passengers that sit in the back. These can be found on various upmarket Toyotas. The GT Celicas have them, the Supras have them. I'm pretty sure Soras and other variants have them. So yeah, rear foot warmers for passengers that sit in the back of your Celica. If that isn't redundancy, I don't know what is. If I ever have passengers in the rear of my Celica, doubtful, then they're gonna freeze their feet off. And I really don't give a fuck.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
But yeah, this is in. It's gonna stay here now. It's in place. We've got the earth here, which I'll just hook up down there where the original Series B bracket normally mounts. Test fit the console and it's all good. I just need to make a faceplate. Now that this is mounted though, I'm gonna have to move on to other things. I'm not gonna be able to worry about this for a while, so I'm just gonna have to put up with that being shit for a little while longer. Because I'm gonna need some black spray paint to touch up. I also need some black spray paint to do the center console I've been working on. Not that one, that was just for test fitting. So I guess the other thing to do is play with this little fella. I'm just not sure where to mount it. I don't know whether to have it dash mounted. I don't know whether to have it hanging under here like that, although then it sort of blocks my speedo and tacho. Off to one side. I guess it has to go in here. The thing is though, and I was been meaning to talk to you a lot about this. This is adjustable steering column out of an RT 142/MA61. It's sort of a Bitzer. I've sort of mishmashed them to make it work with the rack and pinion setup and still bolt into the RA40. A Supra Corona surround on it, which is very chunky, massive. Like it doesn't. I had issues with it hitting the dash fascia. I actually cut my other dash fascia out more, so that would bloody fit. I don't want to do that with the GT fascia, so I've got this here, which is actually out of the GT, and it fits onto the Supra Corona column, and like no worries, like it just bolts straight on. The bottom half isn't on yet, but yeah, it fits. So it fits the column fine, but it's the only one I have and it's off of the GT. So I'm gonna have to hunt for a spare one, and I'll use this one because it's not in great condition. So I'll probably just use this, repaint it, and then get a better one for the GT. But yeah, if I mount this here, I don't really want to do it just double-sided tape, because I know after a while it's just gonna fall off and annoy the shit out of me. I want it to be hard mounted somewhere. I just don't know if I'm game enough to pull the arse end out of this thing and start putting screws through the bloody columns around like that. I do think that's where it has to go though. So I'm going to have to work this out. I'm also going to have to do the wiring a bit better than this. This was just dodgy to see if it works. But yeah, the wiring's very, very basic. I can literally just get all my signals sent from the dash cluster like this. So that'll be nice and neat once it's done. Nah, can't do it. Don't have the courage to do it. Can't drill through a GT column surround. I have to find a different way to mount this thing. I have to find a way. I have to make this work somehow. There has to be a way.
Life will not be contained. Breaks free, expands territories, and cracks through barriers painfully, maybe dangerously. Life finds a way.
Hold on a minute. I just ruined the 80s theme I was going for.
Damn it!
Okay, this is the finished product. what I've come up with. So I will clean this up and paint it at some stage, but for now I want to just put it in and drive around with it and make sure it works properly. There's no point painting it and making it look pretty if I have to end up changing this this mounting system I've come up with, because it is offset, because it mounts off of an existing screw under there. It's offset so it sort of sits more center between the steering wheel. It's pretty light, so I can't imagine that going over a bump or anything like that would make that want to fall, but if it does end up wanting to move around a bit, I'll have to change the mounting setup a bit. And the cable's fairly long as well. I've just put eyelets on there, soldered them on, and heat shrink over them. So I'll just sort of loop this up and cable tie it to itself to keep it neat. The amount of extra wires coming off of this standard cluster are just getting ridiculous now. I will go into more detail about all this in the video about building this whole instrument cluster, but I have to wait for this diagram to come from Japan, which should be here soon. It might even be here by the time this video goes live, and then I'll be able to wire up those turbo lights correctly and finish this off. But for now I'm just gonna put the dash back together anyway and run this thing. Well, she's all mounted up. I'm pretty happy with it. It's in a spot where I can see it well. I like it. I like it. Works better than my actual friggin' tacho, which is lazy as fuck right now. I really need to get around to fixing that. But yeah, that's in. Radio's in. And that's in. I just haven't run power to it yet. I was hoping to get the power done today so I could have it light up and all that, because it looks awesome. But yeah, I'll get that done next time. For now though, I have to move on to something else. I can't finish the dash just yet. Alright, so I'm going to tackle some things either tomorrow or in a couple days. We'll see what happens. But for now, I think that'll do. This episode's probably already long enough. Until next time folks, catch us later.